ready. Come on in, make yourselves at home. Hello, hello, Julie. Hey, honey. Come on in, make yourselves at home. I'm here, just posting content. Hello, 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 YouTube. Hey, Shirley. Hey, Tara. Hello, Embrace 13 Insanity. I love your name. Hey, Melanie. Hey, Jester. Hey, Manning 31. Hey, Cece. Hello, Miss Julie. Hey, Shirley. Hello, Lorianne. I love the sunflowers. Hey, Juju BB. Hello, Annie Santiago. Welcome in. If this is your first time to Twisted Tales Live, let us know. We want to welcome you properly. Hey, Wolves Whisper. Hello, Kimmy. Hello, Jester. Hello, Trade Positive. Hello, Mary. Whoever's over there on YouTube. Hello, 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 hello. Brain's daughter. Hello, come on in. Hey Pamela, hey Mary, hello Tracy, oh I'm so glad Renee, from New Jersey. Welcome. If you are brand new here, my name is Bryn Morgan. I am a horror author. I am also a teller of scary stories, paranormal stories, ghost stories, true crime, surreal unawareness, Appalachian horror, urban legends, cryptids. We cover it all. We cover it all here. So come in, make yourselves welcome. Tap, 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 tap. Let's get that algorithm going. Show TikTok that we are serious. I don't know how the will of fate is going to decide tonight, but whatever it does, the story's top notch. Hey, Poor Jesus Kid. Hey, Rose. Hey, Lulu. Hello, Patricia. This is a safe, warm, loving, welcome environment where you can come in for the next 2 hours and have a bedtime story told to you. Well, 2 tonight, actually. Also, here in about 1 minute, I'm going to show some merch that I have approved. Hello, Dandelion. You like the crown? Good, 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 good. I have quite the collection. Most welcome. I think the ghost lady even likes this song. Hey Alicia, Indiana girl. Hey Mia. Hello Marja Cassell. Dandelion, thank you for the follow, my love. Hey Bonnie Sue. Here we go. These are the things that I have put my stamp of approval on, and I have given the go ahead. for this to be included as merch. First thing I'm showing is a canvas. Now this canvas is not as big as what we will be getting, but this is just a mock-up of it. It says twistedtaleslive.com. Same on the other side. Solid canvas. This thing isn't going to rip. You can put as many library books in here as you wanted to. Can y'all see that in YouTube? It has a black interior. It doesn't have a pocket. I really want a pocket on it. But this thing is not going to fall apart. No way. So that is the tote. Okay, sweet Kimmy, thank you. Kimmy, let's just communicate. I can't get in YouTube because I've got my main iPad up there. So if there's something that needs to be said or something, shoot it through me. Shoot it to me through here or on Discord, and I'll respond. But I like seeing it here. This is another thing that I have given approval on. The t-shirt. This is the front. Love it. And then on the back you have Twisted Tales Live with Bryn Morgan. I chose purple because we all like purple here. But I'm sure that we can, I'll have to ask X, but I think we can probably get it in different colors. Sturdy. One thing I cannot stand is wearing a t-shirt and I wash it the first time and it rolls up. Not happening here. Great t-shirt material. It's great. Love it so much. We do love our purple, don't we? But this was a photo that was taken back when I first started, and I absolutely loved it. It was just kind of like the beginning. So that's the t-shirt. Here's another thing that I've given my yay on. Little bitty t-shirts. Isn't it precious? Our newest little night dweller. Isn't it cute? And then it has Twisted Tales Live with Bryn Morgan. Same quality. Good t-shirt. Oh, I just about lost it when I saw this. This has my stamp of approval as well. It's a onesie. It's pink. The quality, amazing. Our newest little night dweller. So week. Who doesn't like a good pajama shirt? Satin. Now this is only one that I've given approval on, but we are working on another. And then on the back, I told you merch was coming. And I'm gonna tell you, XJ, hold on, let me turn the fan off of this so y'all can actually see it. So, this is one side. And then this is the other side. The Night Queen on satin. Great quality, absolutely great quality. And there's going to be another night shirt for those of us ladies who don't want to feel constricted in satin. There's going to be other options as well. Fall's coming. Right now it doesn't feel like it, but it is. This is the hoodie. And when I tell you this hoodie is well made, it's not falling apart. So those are, hello Damon, so those are the first 5 items that I've actually given my stamp of approval on. I tried out a cup and it's a good quality cup. It's a good quality cup, but I know that we are looking at a couple more of those. So, the store will be opening soon. And if you like, I can, on the intermission, I can go in and show it again. If you would like. You're ready to shop, Mia. Yay. And listen, there are pillowcases that are coming. I've got 5 boxes downstairs that I've got to open. So, we are having a subscribers live on Sunday night. What? Oh yes. A subscribers live Sunday night, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern. Don't miss it. Pillowcases, coffee mugs, tumblers, blankets, posters. There is so much coming, but I'm picky. So anything that I showed tonight, I'm like, okay, yeah, I wear it. Hey X, and y'all can thank X. X is the most amazing person. She is working hard to provide the best merchandise that really shows how much we love you. And so her and I are both very particular, very picky. She won't show me something unless she thinks, hey, Brent's gonna like it, you know. So If you have any questions about sizes, please go through X for that. She's the expert. All right, everyone. Who's ready for the will of Jessica, did you have your camera going for that blue button? I really don't know how the will of fate can go wrong tonight. We let the will of fate decide the stories I tell tonight. Hello, hello, everyone just coming in. If you are just coming in, this is Twisted Tales Live. I am Bryn Morgan, a horror author. I am also a teller of scary stories, paranormal stories, ghost stories, true crime, serial unalivers, urban legend, Appalachian horror, cryptids, and horror stories brought to life. Does any of that sound good to you? Hit that follow button and the notification bell and never miss another Twisted Tales Live. And welcome. The Will of Fate. We are working on a new Will of Fate because the marker that I got from Amazon was not the kind that erases. And I was told that it was. Anywho. Who is ready? These are your categories. Cryptid, paranormal, true crime, short story, Appalachian horror, aliens, possession, urban legend, Stephen King, horror movie brought to story. Shall we begin? Let me know in the comments. I'm ready, Bryn. Let's do it. I will tell you, the Will of Fate is very partial to Stephen King. And true crime, and short story. Here we go. Cryptid. The first story of the night will be Cryptid. Are you ready? We have a way of how we do things around here, new ones. We go into story time in a different way. Are you ready? And then I will reveal the cryptid story of the night. Lower your lights. Do it with me. Light a candle for ambiance. Lock your doors. Pull your curtains nice and tight. Wrap yourself in your warmest blanket to avoid the chills that are about to crawl up your spine. And let's begin with cryptids. Let's change up the music. Hello, Karen. Hello, Jezebel. Tonight, when I was searching for cryptid, this was a story that was brought to me, and it's been on the wheel of fate for quite some time, and I wanted to tell it so very bad. And tonight, the wheel of fate has decided on the beast of Bray Road, a true cryptid horror story. Welcome, my devoted night dwellers, to another descent into the shadows of our world. I am your Night Queen, and tonight we venture into the heart of rural Wisconsin. Is anyone in the audience from Wisconsin? Let us know in the comments. We venture into Wisconsin where the cornfields whisper secrets and the moon illuminates horrors that should not exist. Tonight's tale is not mere fiction, my dark children. It is woven from the trembling testimonies of real people, farmers, police officers, teenagers on midnight drives, all forever changed by what they witnessed on a lonely stretch of road. A road that has earned the name that sends shivers through the spines of anyone brave enough to utter it after dark. Bray Road, where something stalks between the worlds of man and beast, where yellow eyes pierce the darkness and claws scrape against metal and flesh with equal hunger. This is not a story for the faint of heart, night dwellers. This is a journey into genuine terror, where the line between reality and nightmare dissolve like morning mist. So dim your lights, lock your doors, and prepare yourself for the beast of Bray Road. Chapter 1. The First Encounter. Delavan, Wisconsin. The autumn wind howled through the bare branches as Mark Shackleman gripped the steering wheel of his old Ford. The headlights cutting through the thick darkness of Halloween night. The year was 1936, and the small farming community of Delavan, Wisconsin was a place where neighbors knew each other's names and strange things simply didn't happen. Mark had been driving home from his night shift at the local factory when he spotted something peculiar near the old Native American burial ground just off Bray Road. His headlights caught what appeared to be a figure digging in the earth, hunched over in an unnatural position. "Hey there!" Mark called out, rolling down his window. "Hey, you need help?" The figure slowly turned, and Mark's heart nearly stopped. Why, Night Queen? Why? Because what faced him wasn't human. Standing nearly 7 feet tall, the creature had the body of a massive man, but the head of a wolf. Or something far worse. Its eyes glowed yellow in the darkness, reflecting the car's headlights like twin suns of malevolent fire. "What the hell?" Mark whispered, his hand shaking as he reached for the gear shift. The beast looked at him and tilted its head, studying him with an intelligence that was somehow more terrifying than pure animal instinct. It opened its mouth, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. Did you hear that howl? Let out a sound that would haunt Mark for the rest of his life. A howl that seemed to come from the depths of hell itself. Mark slammed the car into reverse, tires screaming against the gravel road. As he sped away, he glimpsed the creature in his rearview mirror, standing motionless in the road, watching him plead with those burning yellow eyes. He never spoke of what he saw that night. Not for decades. Because who would believe him? And more importantly, what if it came looking for him? The animal did not look at him as an animal would. No, it was intelligent, it was shrewd, and it was looking at him as if memorizing his face. Thank you. Question 1, Night Dwellers. What would you do if you encountered something that defied everything you believed about the world? Would you tell anyone? Or would you carry that terror in silence? Let me know in the comments. Chapter 2, thank you. The Girl on the Country Road. December 1972, Elkhorn, Wisconsin. The snow fell in heavy wet flakes as 18-year-old Linda Godfrey drove slowly down the winding country road. It was her first winter with a driver's license. She was excited. She was an adult, or at least in her mind, she thought she was. And her father had warned her about the treacherous conditions on these isolated rural routes. She was returning from her job at the local diner, exhausted and eager to get home. Unfortunately, the car that she had bought, the gas gauge was broken. She never knew exactly how much gas was in the tank. It was starting to spitter and sputter. Come on, Betsy, just a few more miles, she muttered to herself as she hit the steering wheel, listening to loud rock music, squinting through the windshield as the wipers struggled against the accumulating snow. That's when she saw it. At first, it appeared to be a large dog sitting in the middle of the road, just beyond the reach of her headlights. Linda wanted to be a veterinarian when she grew up, and she had a soft spot in her heart for animals. Linda slowed the car down, not wanting to hit the animal. Its back was turned to her. But as she drew closer, she stopped. It looked wounded. She slowed the car down even more. She rolled down the window. Hey there, buddy. What are you doing out on a cold night like this? She watched the animal, tense. And then her blood turned to ice. The creature unfolded itself, and it was enormous. Far too large to be any dog that she'd ever seen. Further, to her horror, it sat upright like a human, its powerful arms hanging at its sides. But its head was unmistakably canine. What are you? She hurriedly rolled up her window as the creature began to stand. She took in the wolf-like ears, perked forward, listening, a long snout filled with gleaming teeth, and those eyes, those terrible, intelligent yellow eyes that seemed to look directly into her soul. Oh God! Oh God, what is that thing? Linda yelled, her hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly that her knuckles turned white. The beast slowly turned its head toward her approaching car, moving slowly, menacingly, and Linda could see the muscles rippling beneath its thick, dark fur. It was like watching a nightmare come to life, a creature that should not exist. Yet there it sat, and then stood, and then walked, as real as the snow falling around them. For what felt like an eternity, Lisa said that the beast walked right up to the front of her car and looked in her windshield. They stared at each other. Linda's heart hammered against her ribs as she realized that she was trapped. The road was too narrow to turn around in, and the creature blocked her only path home. Then, without warning, the beast rose to its full 7-foot height. Linda gasped as its claws came out and started at the top of her windshield and scraped its way down. She says today that perhaps he was even taller than 7 feet, perhaps 8 feet. She said it was the most terrifying creature that she had ever saw. Its massive frame casting a shadow that seemed to swallow the light. After it scratched her windshield, it tilted its head and looked at her with a curiosity that was somehow more terrifying than aggressive. Please just let me go home. Why was she talking to this thing, she wondered? And why was it turning its head as if it understood every word she said? The creature looked in the windshield at her one more time, and then with his claws began to tap on the windshield again. She was about to blow the horn when she saw headlights approaching from the distance. She knew her father's truck anywhere. When she noticed it was her dad, she blew the horn, and the thing took off into the forest. I don't know what I saw, but what I saw wasn't human. I avoid Bray Road at all costs. Are werewolves real? Some of the locals say that it was a Wendigo. I don't know. But I never want to come in contact with that unholy creature ever again. chapter 2. Question for you first. If you came face to face with something that challenged everything you knew about reality, would you trust your own eyes? Or would you convince yourself it was just a trick of the light? Chapter 3. The Hunter's Nightmare. November 1982. Bray Road vicinity. The first snow of the season had begun to fall when brothers Tom and Jake set out for their annual deer hunting trip. It was tradition. Every year, November. They had been coming to the woods for 15 years, ever since they were old enough to carry rifles, and they knew every trail, every clearing, every hollow where a 12-point buck might bed down for the night. Tom said, "Remember, Jake, Dad always said the best hunting happens right before a storm, and this snowstorm right here has been a doozy." He adjusted his orange cap as they made their way through the dense underbrush. Jake responded, "Yeah, but this feels different somehow, bro. You notice how quiet it is? No birds, no squirrels, nothing. That's how it always is after a snowfall." Tom paused, listening, and then he noticed his brother was right. It was exceptionally quiet. The sky was gray. The moon was full. The forest was unnaturally silent, as if every living thing had fled or gone into hiding. Even their footsteps seemed muffled, absorbed by the oppressive stillness that hung over the woods like a shroud. They had been tracking what they thought was a large deer for nearly 2 hours when they came upon a clearing lit with the moonlight. What they found there would haunt them for the rest of their lives. Why? Scattered across the forest floor were the remains of several deer. They had been torn apart with a savagery that no natural predator could have inflicted. The ground was churned and muddy, stained with dark blood that steamed into the cold air. And the smell? The smell was like nothing they had ever encountered before. A combination of wet fur, decay, and something else. Something wild and predatory that triggered every evolutionary alarm in their primitive brain. "Tom, look at these tracks, man." Jake's voice was barely audible as he pointed to the ground near the largest carcass. Pressed deep into the mud were footprints unlike anything in their field guides. They were enormous, nearly twice the size of a human foot, but elongated, with what appeared to be claw marks extending from each toe. "Dude, I think we need to get out of here." "Man, they're just bear tracks." "No, they're not bear tracks. Look at those things." They heard something in the woods. They don't unalive like this. That's when they heard it. A low growl that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, reverberating through the trees like distant thunder. The brothers froze, their rifles suddenly feeling inadequate in their hands. Tom, Jake said, placing his hand against his brother's chest to stop him from moving forward. Do you see what I'm seeing? Yeah, I do. What is it? A large shadow that the brothers claimed to be at least 8.5 feet tall emerged from the shadows between the trees. The creature moved with fluid grace, standing upright, its yellow eyes fixed on them with predatory intelligence. It was like looking at the evolution in reverse. A nightmare fusion of man and wolf that should have been impossible. But as they stood and looked at it, they knew it was real. The two brothers looked at each other. The wolf man looked at them both, stalking slowly toward them. We're gonna back up slow. Jake, I'm scared. That thing is coming toward us. I know. We gotta keep our wits about us. The truck's just over there. We do not turn our back on this thing. The two brothers began to walk backwards, praying to God that they would not stumble. They knew that there were rocks and limbs in the field. The moon began to be even brighter than it was before. This thing walked toward them, looking at them. Its big paws balled into fist. They were close to the truck now. And then, as if it knew exactly what they were thinking, it took off running as fast as they had ever seen it run. They managed to make it to the truck. They climbed in the cab. The thing jumped on top of the roof. Jake managed to crank the truck. He backed up and on purpose rammed into a tree. Is it gone? Did we get rid of it? Tom looked through the rearview mirror. It did fall off, but it was standing again. The two men sped off into the night, terrified of what they had encountered. Tell me, my dark disciples, what do you think they have encountered in the woods on Bray Road? Let me know in the comments. Chapter 3. When faced with evidence that defies explanation, is it easier to deny what you've seen, or to accept the fact that the world is far stranger and more dangerous than you ever imagined it could be? Chapter 4. The Newspaper Investigator. 1989. Elkhorn, Wisconsin. Linda Godfrey had built a respectable career as a newspaper reporter for the Walworth County Week. She covered local politics, school board meetings, and the occasional human interest story. She was known for her thorough research and skeptical eye, qualities that made her the last person anyone would expect to become obsessed with monster sightings. Everything changed, though, on a cold January morning, when she received a phone call that would alter the course of her life. The phone rang. Walworth County Week, this is Linda. How can I help you? Miss Godfrey? A trembling voice said. Yes? Ma'am, I heard you sometimes write about strange things, and I need to tell someone what I saw, but I can't use my real name. I just want to protect the locals. They'll think I'm crazy. Linda had received crank calls before, but there was something in this man's voice, a raw terror that couldn't be faked, made her reach for her notepad. Okay, now let's begin again. Take your time. Tell me what happened. Well, I was driving home from work last night. It was around midnight. You know that stretch of Bray Road near the old cemetery? The Native American cemetery? Yeah. Yes, I know it well. Well, I saw something. Something that, I don't know if I should talk to you about this, but Linda's interest was piqued. No, please go ahead. Your name is, you don't have to tell me anything, just tell me what you saw. Well, ma'am, it was huge. And it was walking on two legs like a man. Okay. Please continue. Well, God, I don't know how to say this. It's best to usually just say it, she said. It had the head of a wolf. Linda paused. And its eyes, God, ma'am, its eyes were yellow like fire. Linda had heard enough local folklore to dismiss most monster stories. But as she listened to the caller's account, she found herself taking detailed notes. Why? Because this wasn't the first time that she had heard a story like this. The man's description was too specific, too consistent with other whispered tales she'd heard over the years. You said it was out at Bray Road, right? Yes, ma'am. Can you describe it in more detail? How tall was it? What was it doing? Do you remember at the beginning of the story, the first woman who was 18 when she was driving alone on a snowy country road? And her name was Linda. Well, Linda was now the local news reporter. So as this man on the phone began to tell these things, it brought back memories of that snowy night. It was at least, I'd say, between 7 to 8 feet tall. It was just standing there in the middle of the road. Like it owned the place, ma'am. And when my headlights hit it, yes. Well, it turned to look at me. And I swear, go ahead. It was intelligent. It wasn't like an animal at all, ma'am. It studied me for the longest time. Linda remembered that well. And then what happened? We looked up at the moon, and then it just walked in the woods. Never been so scared in my life. After the call ended, Linda sat staring at her notes. As a journalist, she prided herself on objectivity. But she knew that was no prank call. The man on the phone had came in contact with the monster on Bray Road. She began to do more research. Stories were everywhere, and all of them were almost as similar as to what she had encountered. Farmers, police officers, teenagers, all describing events, encounters with the same impossible creature. The descriptions were remarkably consistent with what she had saw. A massive wolf-like creature that walked upright, yellow eyes, incredible intelligence, and always on the same stretch of road. And always in the winter when it snowed. What is this thing on Bray Road? Linda drove over to her father's house and sat down at the table with him. Dad? Yeah? Her dad was up in age now. Thick Coke bottle lenses. But he was sharp. You remember when I was 18? You remember when you came around the bend in the road and you saw something run off into the woods? Oh yeah. Never seen my baby girl as tired and exhausted and terrified as she was that night. I know that this is insane, what I'm about to say, but I'm actually considering writing about what, honey? About a werewolf. Her dad had supported her in every decision that she had ever made, any story that she had ever reported. And the more people that she interviewed, the more convinced she became that something genuinely extraordinary was happening in Walworth County and had been for decades. These weren't attention seekers or hoaxers. They were ordinary people who had seen something that defied explanation. And they were terrified. Her first article, published in December 1991, was titled "The Beast of Bray Road." Linda expected ridicule, perhaps even damage to her career, but instead, her phone began to ring off the hook. More witnesses came forward, each with their own terrifying encounter. You saw it too? When? Where exactly? It was 3 months ago. It was right where you described. I was driving my daughter home from her piano lesson when this thing just stepped out of the cornfield. It was massive, ma'am, and it looked right at us. My daughter still has nightmares about this thing. With each news story, the weight of what she was investigating pressed down on her more heavily. She began having nightmares herself. That night, all those years ago, on that snowy, frosty night, when that werewolf came up to her windshield and ran its claws down her glass. Question. When you dedicate your life to investigating the unknown, what happens when the unknown begins investigating you? Halloween night, 1999. You guessed it. On Bray Road. 18-year-old Dorothy Gibson had heard all the stories about Bray Road. But like most teenagers, she thought they were just local folklore designed to scare kids. She was driving home from a Halloween party with her friends. The radio was playing softly as they laughed about their costumes and gossiped about classmates. I can't believe that Sarah dressed as a vampire. She looked more like a goth librarian. Another friend spoke up. At least she didn't trip over her cape like last year. Remember when she... Amy's words were cut off as something large struck the side of their car with tremendous force. The vehicle lurched sideways, tires squealing as Dorothy fought to keep control of the steering wheel. What the hell was that? They pulled over to the side of the road, hearts pounding. And in the darkness outside, they could hear something moving. Heavy footsteps circling their car like a predator stalking its prey. Her best friend in the back seat whispered with a trembling tone, "Dorstein, look at the side of your car. It's crouching. What's crouching?" "Shh." Whatever had hit them was strong enough to damage a moving vehicle with its bare hands. "We need to call the police. We need to get out of this car." The car suddenly rocked violently as something massive landed on the roof. They could hear claws scraping against the metal, and the car's frame groaned under the weight of whatever was above them. Dorstein slammed down on her horn. It began to blare out into the country night. The girls began to hit the roof, the sides of the windows, everything they could do. And then Dorstein cranked her car. And they waited. And that's when they saw fingers easily twice the size of a human hand, ending in black talons that gleamed in the moonlight. The hand pressed against the glass, and they could hear the creature's breathing, deep, animalistic pants that fogged the windows. "It's trying to get in." "The hell it is." Dorstein put her hand on the clutch, pressed her foot to the gas pedal, and took off into the country night. She later said, as she told the police, "We were going to die there. We were going to die there. That werewolf was there." "What did you do?" the police officer asked. We just took off." "It's a good thing you did." The police officer, after the girls had left the police station, said they didn't hit anything. Something hit them, and we all know what it is. This thing on Bray Road, this beast, what do you think it is? Some say a werewolf. Others say a Wendigo. There is the Native American burial ground, after all. Or perhaps even a skinwalker. What do you think? I wish I could say that the sightings have stopped, but they haven't. They continue to this day. So if you are out on Bray Road at night and something steps out from a cornfield or the forest, I wouldn't stop if I were you. Let me see if I can find a picture of the beast of Bray Road. Have you ever heard of it? Let me see. Wasn't that a chilling story? The beast of... There is a film on this. I did not know this. Did you know that? The Beast of Bray Road. I want to see the depiction. Ooh. Someone tried to depict it, and this is what they came up with. That thing is creepy. Oh my god. Ew. I'm telling you, I would not stop. I would not stop. I would not collect $200. I would just go. I'm going to have to watch the movie now. Here is another. This is a person that said they saw it, and this is what they showed. So there is a lot of similarity in that one picture that we saw compared to this one. The head, the ears. Oh my gosh. What do you think it is? Do you think it's a do you think it's a Wendigo? Do you think it's a skinwalker? Do you think that it is a werewolf? What do you think? At this juncture, I'm gonna lean toward perhaps a werewolf. Obviously, this one is AI, but again, very striking similarities in this one as well, I think. So I would definitely say a werewolf. Is anyone in the audience from Wisconsin? Have you heard this? Have you heard of the Beast of Bray Road? That was such a good story. I love that story. All right. We are going to take a intermission, grab a snack, soda, and I am going to come back and the wheel is going to spin again. Ray lives nearby. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Creepy, 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 creepy. Very creepy. All right, go get a snack, a drink. I'm going to be gone. I'll come right back and we will spin the wheel again. What story do you want to hear next? You've been to the road? That stopped me in my tracks. That's funny, X. You need us to help you pack. Really, right? All right, I'll be right back. So, how has everyone been doing? What did you think of that story? What did you think in YouTube? Let me know. Yes, Bobby Johnson, we are having a short break and then I'm going to spin the wheel again and there's going to be a second story tonight. I know, I kind of let it cross between, I was like, is it a werewolf? Is it a skinwalker? Is it a wendigo? Am I mispronouncing it? If I am, you are learning that your Night Queen is not perfect. Hey, Lulu. Hello, Jimmy. How are you? So glad you liked it, Rhonda. Uh-oh. The shadows are creeping in. Shall we? You like it, Bobby Johnson? Awesome. You've been to that road, Raybab, and did you drive away quickly? I just found it very odd that, it seemed like it was in the winter. Is the only time that they saw it. Just about every account that I heard said that. Since we are on, thank you, Lulu, thank you. I'm going to do a quick gown reveal because I know that is a lot of, a lot of people enjoy that. If you noticed, I have moved completely to black now, being the Night Queen. I think that is the only color that is fitting for royalty of the shadows. So let me show it. I will be showing more merch on Sunday night at 8:00 p.m. Eastern for the subscribers live. Everyone can watch it because I'm not able to do music on a subscribers only live. I don't know why, but it will be a subscriber only chat. So I hope to see all my subscribers there, and I'll be showing up merch for everyone. This is black, long, has a lovely train on the back. I don't know if you can see it or not. Very slenderizing. So yes, this is the gown for tonight. I need one of my henchmen here to move my chair for me. A queen should not have to move her own seat. Right. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Deanna. Oh, really, Jareem? That is super interesting. Chester, you need to be here to move my chair. All right. Got a little bit of sugar in my system. I will, Lulu. I can't hold myself to just black. This one Rhonda, yeah. These are like my favorite right now. I love them. I love these sweet, salty, sour taste. I love them. Every time that I send Edgar out for groceries, I tell him to pick up 3 bags of these. I adore these things. Hey, Spitfire. You can't do sour? Oh my gosh. Does anyone remember the nuclear warheads? They were my absolute favorite. Yes, they are, Manny. I love them. They are so good. I used to have a employee of mine that would bring nuclear warheads to work, and I would go by his desk every day and take one out and pop it in my mouth, and would keep a straight face the whole time, but inside I was screaming. Oh, I love lemonade. Oh my gosh, crybaby gum. The watermelon, yeah, it is good. It is very, very good. All right, 1 minute, and we are going to go ahead and have the wheel spin again. Uh-oh. Well, I'm cool now. Spilled water. Airheads, yes, those things are so good. Sandra, you want true crime? Well, let's see what the Wheel of Fate decides. Here we go. It is time. Thank you all globally who have given tonight. Thank you so much. Thank you for the likes, the hearts, the gestures, the follows, the subscriptions. Thank you all so, so much. I'm very excited to see what the Wheel of Fate will choose for me. Here we go. Give a shout out on what you think you'd like to hear, my dear. Here we go. I like for the Will to pick something that I haven't heard in a while. There are so many great ones. Here we go. Oh my God. Stephen King. Again. This Will is partial. Oh my gosh. King of Horror, anyone? It did, Julie. It chose Stephen King. Oh my God. Yes, yes, Way. It did. It did. Oh, wow. Okay, then. Wow. And tonight's Stephen King story is, well, we're sticking with the animal thing tonight, aren't we? Pet Cemetery. Are you ready? Wow, this is another one that has been on the wheel for weeks, I believe, right, Julie? And it is one that I have wanted to tell. I think it is one of the creepiest Stephen King stories. But first, let's get back into scary mode, shall we? Say it with me. Lower your lights. Lock your doors. Light a candle for ambience. Pull your curtains nice and tight. Wrap yourself in your warmest blanket as you're about to feel chills crawl up your spine. And let's begin with Stephen King's Pet Cemetery. Hey, lucid dreams. Is there anyone that can touch Stephen King? I don't think so. There are places in this world where the veil between life and death is thin. So thin. Let me just stop here for a second. How in the world did the Wheel of Fate choose two stories that are based on Native American burial grounds? Did you just get cold chills like I did? Alright, let's continue. There are places in this world where the veil between life and death is thin. So thin, it breathes. In Ludlow, Maine, that veil doesn't just whisper, it waits. It began on a sunlit afternoon, the kind that tricks you into thinking that nothing can go wrong. Lewis Creed gripped the wheel of the U-Haul truck as the tires crunched over gravel. His eyes flickered from the road ahead to the side mirror, where Rachel followed in their car with Ellie and baby Gage. The August wind blew light through the trees, dappling the road with shadow and gold. It felt peaceful. Too peaceful. The road narrowed as they rounded a bend, revealing a 2-story white house nestled like a secret at the edge of the woods. It had wide porches, sun-warped shutters, and a fence that leaned like a tired old man trying to stand. In the backyard, a massive oak tree bloomed, its branches gnarled like arthritic fingers. Lewis excelled. Home, he said aloud. He was 35, a doctor, recently appointed head of medical services at the University of Maine. Rational, logical, believer in clean science, not dirty legend. Yet something about that tree unsettled him. Hello, Janet. But he didn't mention it. Rachel parked behind him and stepped out, brushing a strand of blonde hair from her cheek. Her smile was radiant, but reserved, the kind you give when you're trying to believe in the new beginning. Ellie was 5 years old and, bursting with curiosity, bolted out of the car and sprinted toward the house. "It's big!" she shrieked. "Can I pick my room?" Lewis laughed. "We'll see who finds the best one." Gage cooed in his car seat, tiny fist reaching toward the sky. It felt good. Home. But as they carried boxes and dreams into their new home, the wind began to shift. Something in the trees whispered. Something old. Something buried. That evening, as twilight draped the world in blue velvet, a knock came at the door. Lewis opened it to find a man in his 70s, wearing a faded flannel shirt and suspenders. His face was a map of time, lines etched deep from sun and sorrow. He held a 6-pack of beer like it was a peace offering. "Name's Crandall, Judd Crandall. I live across the road over there." Lewis shook his hand. "Lewis Creed. That's my wife Rachel and our kids." Judd tipped his hat to Rachel as she emerged onto the porch, Gage bundled in her arms. "Thought I'd welcome you to Ludlow the proper way," Judd said, holding up the beer. "And maybe Warn you about that road, yeah. Rachel blinked. The road? Judd's mouth thinned. Route 15. Seam us fly through like the devil's got it scheduled. That road don't stop for nothing. Took my dog when I was a boy. Takes pets, takes deer. Took a kid once. Ellie's eyes widened from her perch on the porch swing. Rachel held Gage a little tighter. Judd's gaze flicked toward the tree line behind the house. Kids around here used to walk that way when they lost their pets. There's a trail. It's old. Real old. Leads to a place they made their own. A graveyard? Lewis asked. Judd nodded. Of sorts. Creepy, Ellie said, half giggling. Judd chuckled softly, but his eyes didn't. Some places remember the dead, Mr. Creed, and some don't let go. After the kids went to bed, Lewis and Rachel sat on the porch, watching the fireflies dance. She rested her head on his shoulder. I like Judd, she murmured. He reminds me of my grandfather, she said as she looked at his old house across the road. Lewis nodded, sipping a beer. Kind of feels like it came with the house, doesn't it? The woods beyond the backyard were black now, the trees silhouettes against the navy sky. Rachel frowned. Do you hear that? Lewis paused. There it was, a faint rustling, not wind, not animal, a rhythm, like footsteps. No, he lied, just the trees. The next morning, Ellie begged to see the trail Judd had mentioned. I want to see the pet cemetery, she chirped, but it almost sounded like a whine. Rachel's mouth tightened. It's not a place for children, Ellie. Eat your cereal. Judd appeared like a ghost from the midst, stood behind her on the path, cane in hand. Ain't nothing there but peace, missus. Just some old stones and goodbyes. Better they learn early than too late. After a long pause, Rachel relented. Judd led them along the path. It wound deeper into the trees than expected, weaving through birch and pine, past twisted roots and patches of moss so green they looked painted. The air grew cool, quiet. Ellie ran ahead until she reached the clearing, and there it was. A crude circle of tiny gravestones, some wood, some rock, all child-sized. Names written in faded chalk or scratched into stone. Smucky the cat, 1971 to 1978. He was obedient. Buster, good boy, good friend. Princess, loved, lost, never forgotten. Lewis felt something clutch his chest. Not sadness, not grief. Fear. It didn't belong to him. It belonged to the place. Judd walked among the stones like a priest giving last rites. Kids started this long before I was born. Made it their own. Buried pets here when the road claimed them. Ellie whispered. Why do some of the stones have holes in them? Judd paused. Sometimes things come back in dreams, not in body, not always. Lewis looked at Judd, eyes narrowing. You believe that? Judd didn't answer. Instead, he pointed toward a mass of deadfall behind the last row of stones, a wall of jagged trees and thorns, like nature itself had drawn a line. You don't go past there, he said. Not ever. Rachel shivered. Why? Judd's voice dropped, grave and low. Because past there, the ground is sour. Sour? You don't want to know, ma'am. They walked back in silence. That night, Lewis stood at the kitchen sink watching the dark swell over the trees. Gage lay sleeping. Ellie was humming to herself in bed. Rachel sat at the table, quietly flipping through a photo album. And Lewis swore, just for a moment, that he saw movement at the tree line. Not animal, not wind, just watching. Some places keep their secrets, I notice. Some secrets dig themselves up. And the path beyond the pet cemetery never forgets your name. Question. If death came with a second chance, would you take it? Even knowing the cost? It started with the cat. Church, short for Winston Churchill, was Ellie's companion, her shadow, her comfort. Blue-gray fur, thick as smoke, piercing yellow eyes. He curled up at the foot of her bed every night, his soft purring, the only lullaby she ever needed. Lewis had never liked the cat much. Aloof, smug, but he was family, as much as any of them. And Lewis had promised Rachel they'd be honest about death when the time came. He didn't expect that promise to be tested so soon. The leaves were turning brittle and gold when Church went missing. Ellie cried for 2 days. She refused to sleep in her room, terrified he'd come back and be confused if she wasn't there. Rachel tried to comfort her, but Lewis noticed his wife's hands trembled every time the word death was mentioned. Let her grieve, Lewis told her. It's part of life. Rachel turned on him, her voice sharp. You don't know what she'll carry from this. Lewis didn't understand. Not yet. He had no idea what his wife carried, and how death had once wrapped itself around her like a noose. But Judd Crandall He understood all too well. The next morning, Judd was waiting on the porch. Heard the girl's cat's gone missing. Lewis nodded. Yeah, probably the road. Judd looked out at Route 15, where a new tire street curved across the pavement like a scar. It always is, he said. You want to spare the truth? Lewis hesitated. I thought that's what we were doing. Judd stared at him for a long moment. There's a way, he said slowly. But I ain't offering it lightly. That evening, under a bruised purple sky, Judd led Lewis down the path again. But this time, they passed the pet cemetery. Beyond the circle of stones, past the thorns and brush, they crossed the deadfall, a tangled barrier of branches, logs, and decay. Nature's fence, a warning, not a wall. Lewis slipped once, tearing his jeans. A tree branch cut his palm. He pressed forward anyway. The deeper they walked, the less the world felt right. The woods were wrong. Too quiet. The air hung heavy, thick, with rot and whisper. Not spoken words, just intent. They reached another clearing. This one was bare. A rocky hill, broken open like a wound in the forest floor. This is an old place, Judd said. Older than our kind. The Micmacs used it, but they left. Said the ground turned sour on them. Lewis knelt down, holding Judge's broken body in a cloth. Why bring me here? Judd answered with a whisper. Because sometimes what you bury here, it don't stay dead. Lewis buried the cat with shaking hands. Each scoop of earth felt like betrayal. He didn't know what he expected. Lights in the sky, smoke from the ground, but there was nothing. Just silence. Judd stood watching, a shadow among shadows. Best you don't tell your wife. Lewis nodded. Will it work? Judd looked away. Depends on your definition of work, I reckon. That night, Lewis couldn't sleep. The house felt too still. Rachel lay beside him, her back turned, her breathing shallow. He got up and stood at the kitchen window, staring into the dark yard. Every creak of wood made his stomach clench. Then he heard it. A thump. Soft, heavy, muffled. On the porch. Lewis opened the door. His eyes widened. There was Church. Mud caked. Eyes dull. Not quite alive, but not quite dead either. His fur was matted. He hissed when Lewis approached, a low, unfamiliar sound. Lewis reached out. Church swiped at him, claws slicing his skin. Blood welled on Lewis' hands. Ellie woke the next morning to find her cat curled at her feet. Her scream woke the entire house. "Church, you're back!" They cleaned the blood, bandaged the scratches. Ellie said Church was different, but Lewis insisted he was just scared. He's been through something. Maybe leave him alone for a little bit. He'll come back around. But Rachel stared at him. She knew he was lying. And when Lewis smelled the cat later that night, a sharp, acrid scent of earth and decay, he whispered to himself, "What have I done?" Judd came by the next day, a bottle of whiskey clutched in his hand like a lifeline. He sat on the porch beside Lewis, staring into the woods. "I buried my dog there once," Judd said. "Came back mean, eyes like marbles. Didn't wag its tail no more." Lewis swallowed hard. "Why'd you do it?" "Same reason you did," Judd said. "Grief, hope, and fear." A long silence stretched between them. Judd took a slow sip. "That place brings things back, but they come back changed." Lewis looked at the yard where Church now lounged, unmoving, watching the world through flat, empty eyes. "Why does it exist?" he whispered. Judd didn't answer. He just looked in the woods. Because some places don't have a reason. They just are. Later that night, Lewis dreamed of twisted trees, of bones snapping beneath the soil, of something vast and ancient coiled beneath the earth like a buried god, waiting for offerings. And far off, beneath the moonlight, a little boy in a red cap, standing at the edge of the woods, smiling. The ground doesn't care why you bury. It only cares that you do. Question: if a god offered your child back, but that child wasn't quite right, would you still say yes? Let me know in the comments. Chapter 3. The Dead Child's Shoe. It was the kind of day that should have been beautiful. Bright sun filtered through the trees. The air smelled of cut grass and lilacs. Ellie was blowing bubbles in the front yard. Rachel was unpacking in the kitchen. And Lewis was pushing Gage on the swing. The child laughed, giggled. "Higher!" he shouted in that cherub voice only a 2-year-old could have. Lewis smiled. "Hold on tight!" And then Rachel called from inside. Something about the laundry. A broken pipe. Just for a second. Only for a second. Lewis turned away. That's all it took. The scream that tore from Rachel's throat would haunt Ludlow forever. Judd Crandall heard it from across the road and dropped his rake. A crow flew from the tree near the porch. The wind stilled. When Lewis reached the road, his knees gave out. There was Gage. Small, crumpled, his tiny sneaker lying in the gutter. His shoe still white, still perfect, just empty. Rachel dropped beside the boy, howling. Ellie stood frozen at the porch, her bubbles floating past her face like ghosts. The funeral was a blur of white flowers and whispers. Rachel's parents arrived from Chicago, and with them came fury. Her father blamed Lewis for everything, screamed at him in front of the open casket, shoved him, knocked the flowers to the floor. Lewis didn't fight back. His grief and his guilt were beyond description. Lewis didn't fight back, because how could he? He had turned away. When her father punched him in the nose, it felt good for a second. It was just a second. And in that second, death had taken root. Rachel collapsed into silence. She barely spoke, barely slept. At night she wandered the halls like a ghost. Ellie cried in whispers. Why didn't God take church instead? Why did he take my brother? Lewis didn't answer, because he'd already made a deal with something that was older than God. Judd came by 2 days later, his face pale. You can't be thinking about that. Lewis stared into his coffee, dark circles around his eyes. He stared into the void. Thinking about what? Judd leaned in, his voice trembling. You know what? Lewis didn't deny it. Judd, he whispered. He was just a baby. I know what he was, Judd snapped. And I know what he is now. He's dead. Lewis' voice cracked. So was church. Judd slammed his fist on the porch rail. Church came back wrong, Lewis. And that was just a damn cat. Lewis looked at his neighbor, eyes hollow. I just want to hold him again. Judd's voice lowered, thick with dread. I did it once, Louis. Long time ago. My boy, Timmy, died in the war. I thought, maybe. Louis stared. Judd's face twisted in grief. He came back, but he wasn't my boy. He wasn't right. We had to stop him. The town burned the house. They never talk about it. Judd gripped Louis' shoulder. If you do this, son, he said, you'll lose more than you already have. Rachel took Ellie and left for her parents' house 2 days later. Said she needed space. Said she was breaking. She left Gage's room untouched. The toys still on the floor. The little shoes still beside the door. Louis kissed her goodbye. Said he'd join them in a few days. And the moment that they left, he went to the cemetery. It rained that night. Cold, bitter rain that soaked through every layer of clothing and flesh and soul. Louis carried a flashlight in one hand and a shovel in the other. He walked past the house, past the pet cemetery, over the deadfall, through the darkness, to the place where the ground waited, and there he began to dig. It was the hardest thing he had ever done. The earth didn't give up easily. Roots clung to the box like hands, the small casket. The shovel struck wood with a sound that echoed across the trees. Louis paused. He laughed maniacally. The rain mingled with his tears. His breath came in gasp, and still he dug 6 feet. He opened the coffin with bloodied fingers, and there was Gage. Small, still, smiling faintly, like asleep. Louis wrapped him in a sheet and whispered, "Just a little longer, son." And he carried him into the woods. Hours later, as dawn broke like cracked glass, Louis buried Gage again. This time in cursed, sour soil. This time with hope and horror. And as he smoothed the dirt, he whispered, "Come back to me." He didn't sleep. He sat in the nursery, holding the dead child's shoe, rocking in the quiet. The cat stared at him from the hallway, silent, waiting. And then, at 3:00 a.m., a small voice whispered from the hallway, "Daddy? Daddy, I want to play." Grief is a grave you dig with your own hands, and some things claw their way back out. Question: If you heard your dead child whisper your name in the dark, Daddy, Mommy, would you follow the sound? The night held its breath. Lewis Creed sat at the kitchen table staring into the black coffee long since gone cold. The house grown with old bones. Timber joints, furnace hisses, and something else. Something new. A rhythm. Click, click, click. Tiny sounds. A child's walk. He would know that walk anywhere. It was his son. It was Gage. Daddy? The word wasn't joyful. It was empty, hollow, like it had rolled off a tongue that didn't remember how to speak. Lewis stood so fast the chair fell backward. His breath caught in his throat. The baby monitor still plugged into the nursery. His static then cleared. Giggles. Soft. Wet. Wrong. He crossed the hall in seconds, heart slamming against his ribs like a trapped bird. The door to Gage's room creaked open slowly. The crib was empty, but the window was unlocked, and on the floor, mud. Tiny, smeared footprints leading toward the stairs. Judd Crandall sat on his porch across the road, smoking a cigarette he had lit in 10 years. He felt it, the shift, the pull, the wrongness in the wind. He stood, spine stiff as rusted iron, and stared at the Creed house. No, he whispered, because he knew it. Lewis, in his grief, had done it. He brought the child back. The phone rang at Lewis's house, ringing like a scream. He answered it with trembling fingers. Rachel's voice was frantic. Honey, Ellie's having nightmares. She's screaming the Gage is in the house. She says he's hurting church. Lewis, what's happening there? He lied. She's just grieving, honey. I'll be there in 2 days. Rachel hesitated. Then, Lewis? Is Gage really gone? He paused. Too long. Rachel whispered, "What have you done?" The line went dead. That evening, Judd walked across the road with a shotgun in his hands. He'd buried evil once. He would do it again. But the Creed house was silent. Too silent. Judd opened the front door with a creak. "Lewis?" he called out. No answer. Just the wind. And then a giggle. A child's laugh. Behind him, he turned. Too late. Lewis found Judd's body the next morning in the hallway. His throat had been slashed, his eyes frozen wide with terror, and the pew-pew gone. A tiny muddy footprint sat on Judd's chest like a signature. Rachel's flight was delayed. She left Ellie with her parents and rushed to Ludlow, fear clutching her throat. She didn't know what waited or what Lewis had done, but she knew that it had her son's name. Lewis wasn't at the house when she arrived. The lights were off. The wind chimes whispered secrets. She stepped inside. The air stank terribly. Sour earth, mold, and blood. "Lewis?" she called out, the whites of her eyes showing in the darkness. "Where's Gage?" No answer. The silence tightened around her like a noose. In the upstairs hallway, she saw a figure, illuminated in moonlight, small, smiling. "Hi, Mommy. I want to play," Gage said. But the voice was wrong, dragging syllables like dead weight. His eyes gleamed yellow. His hand clutched something behind his back. "Gage?" she whispered. "Baby?" And then he lunged. Lewis returned to the house at dawn. He found Rachel upstairs. Rachel, neck twisted, face carved with tiny, brutal precision. And next to her lay Gage, laughing, covered in his mother's blood. Lewis held the child's body once again, and he wept, rocked him, whispered lullabies through broken sobs, and then he carried him one last time to the pet cemetery. The line between love and madness is drawn with a shovel, and sometimes we dig far too deep. Question: if grief demanded one more burial, after all you have been through to bring your loved one back, could you bring yourself to dig it again? Let me know in the comments. The shadows are increasing night colors. Lewis Creed no longer looked like a man. The neighbors would say later that he walked like a ghost, that his eyes were glassy and wide, like something hollowed out of his soul and left the shell behind. But no one saw him that morning. No one heard the boots crunching blood-soaked floorboards as he lifted Rachel's body from the carpet. She dangled like a marionette with her strings cut, her limbs limp, her neck crooked, her jaw slightly open in what could have either been horror or forgiveness. Lewis said nothing. He didn't cry. He didn't scream. He just wrapped her in a sheet and carried her down the stairs and out into the woods. The pet cemetery stood quiet beneath the gray sky. The wind barely moved. The trees leaned in, curious. The ground throbbed. Lewis stepped past the children's circle of stones, past Smuggy, past Buster, past Princess, past Gage's new second grave. He passed the deadfall, over that wall of broken limbs, of gnarled trees and cracked bonewood where the real burial ground waited. It no longer felt like walking. It felt like sinking. Lewis laid Rachel's body in the hollow. He placed her wedding ring in her hand. He kissed her cold blue lips. Come back to me, he whispered again. Please. He buried her with shaking arms. He bled into the soil. As he walked back home, his mind fractured gently, like thin porcelain in slow motion. The house was silent again, except for Gage. He sat at the kitchen table. His small legs didn't even reach the floor. His little hands were wrapped around a poker, far too large for him. He smiled. Daddy, he said, I played with Mommy, but she broke. Lewis stared, and then very softly, he smiled back. That night, he burned Judd's house. No ceremony, no explanation. A fire climbed like a living thing, hot and bright, the sky turning orange, then black. People came running from miles away, but not Lewis. He stood in the shadows watching it burn. Judd's secrets, Judd's warnings, Judd himself. He returned home before sunrise, sat in the dark, waited. Gage fell asleep on the rug, curled like a cat, poker still in his tiny hand. Lewis stroked his son's hair. It'll be okay, he murmured. She'll come back, just like you. At 3:12 a.m., the door creaked. A shadow moved. And Rachel stepped inside. Her skin was grey, her eyes sunken, her nightgown shredded from the shovel. One arm hung at a strange angle. But she smiled, and she whispered, "Darling." Lewis moved toward her. Tears filled his eyes. He took her in his arms. He kissed her decaying lips. And in that moment, she slid the poker into his side. Obsession is a grave. You dig willingly, and the dead, oh, the dead, they always remember your name. Question. If you learned something monstrous was watching, would you still dig? The wind that night wasn't natural. It came in pulses, inhales, exhales, as if the woods themselves were breathing. Lewis Creed lay bleeding in the kitchen, his hand clutching his side. Rachel stood above him, swaying. Motionless in her eyes. Her hair falling in wet ropes across her burned face. She was humming a lullaby he didn't recognize. The melody cracked like her voice, raw and rotten. But her eyes, they were no longer Rachel's. They were empty. They were hungry. And they were watching. Somewhere outside, Gage was laughing. The high-pitched giggle of a child with a secret. I want to play with you. I want to play with you. Lewis crawled, dragging his body inch by inch toward the door. His vision swung. Blood warmed the floorboards beneath him. He felt the wound's jagged edge, knew the damage was deep. Too deep. But still he crawled. Because somewhere in those woods, something else waited. Something that had been watching. In his haze, he remembered Judd's voice. There's a reason the Micmacs left. Not because of what came back, but because of what was waiting. Something too old for names. Something that feeds on grief, on depression, on desperation. Something that teaches you how to bury and then waits for you to break. They called it the Wendigo. Not a beast, not a ghost, a hunger, a curse wrapped in antlers and bone and shadow, and it was always watching. Lewis passed out. When he woke, it was dawn. Rachel was gone. The poker was still in his gut, lodged. The house smelled of rot and smoke and soil. And outside, the woods whispered. He managed to pull the poker free, screamed into a pillow so his neighbors wouldn't hear, wrapped his side with strips of an old bedsheet. Every breath burned. He stumbled to the bathroom, looked in the mirror, and what looked back at him was not Lewis Creed. It was something broken. And behind his reflection, he saw antlers. Just for a second, antlers twisting like roots. The next night, he followed the trail into the woods, past the pet cemetery, beyond the deadfall. He no longer cared what he took. He needed to understand what had taken everything from him. The burial ground was still. The stones were cold. He knelt in the dirt, clutching his bleeding side, and whispered into the wind, "Why?" And something answered, not with words, but with memory. A flood of images crashed through his mind, visions of every grave, every cry, every desperate parent who had come here before him, a chorus of regret. He saw a mother burying her infant in 1923, a boy burying his dog in 1941, Judd burying his son after the war, over and over, each face twisted with hope, each burial ending in screams. And then he saw it. The Wendigo, tall as trees, skin stretched tight across palms, eyes hollow, mouth too wide, antlers like blackened lightning. It stood just beyond the light, watching, waiting, and it smiled. Lewis fell to the ground, sobbing. He had thought that he was clever. He had thought that love would conquer death. But love had led him to this. A hunger older than memory. A cycle that could not be broken, only fed. And now it wanted more. Behind him, he heard small feet. Gage, his 2-year-old son, still holding the poker, smiling. And next to him, Rachel, face rotting, eyes burning, and they spoke together in one voice. Bury us again. Bury us again. Lewis screamed, and the wood screamed back. You cannot bargain with the forest. You cannot reason with hunger. You can only become part of it. Question. If the forest called your name, Would you answer it? Let me know in the comments. Chapter 7. The forest eats its own. Lewis Creed no longer feared death. He had danced with it, buried it, invited it into his home like an old friend who overstayed its welcome. What he feared now, what carved itself into his bones, was what came after, what watched through the trees, what stood with breathless silence behind every resurrection. He wandered the forest like a man that was already dead. Blood loss had dulled his thoughts to static. The wound in his side oozed beneath his shirt. He pressed a hand to it now, only out of habit. Every step led him deeper into the heart of something ancient, something listening. The woods had changed. The trail no longer followed a path. It shifted behind him. The deadfall breathed. The stones wept blood. He was in a different Ludlow now, one buried just beneath the skin of the world. Lewis found himself standing at the base of a blackened tree. Gnarled roots rose from the ground like claws. At its center, a hollow deep, wide enough for a man. Inside the hollow, something pulsed, wet, red, a heart beating. Not metaphorically, not imagined, real. Thick veins slithered into the ground from it, pulsing in time with the wind. Lewis dropped to his knees because he understood now. This was not just a burial ground. It was alive. And it needed to feed. The Wendigo stepped from behind the tree. It didn't walk. It glided. Its limbs too long, its joints too loose. The sound of bone grinding echoed with each movement. It had no eyes, just pits of shadow. But Lewis felt its stare. He tried to stand, failed. His body trembled. The Wendigo tilted its head. It did not speak with a voice. It entered his thoughts. You are the seed and the spade. You plant what you love and reap what you deserve. Lewis gasped. I didn't want this. But you asked for it. Behind him, Gage reappeared. The real Gage was long gone. This thing wore his face like a mask. Its smile was too wide, too knowing. Rachel stood beside him. Her mouth hung open. A black snake slithered from it. Her fingers twitched, puppeted. Lewis collapsed to the dirt. "I want you back," he sobbed. "I just wanted my family." The Wendigo knelt beside him. Lewis smelled rot and winter. "Then lie with them in the roots." Roots burst from the ground, wrapped around his wrist, his legs, his throat. He didn't bite. He was so tired. As he was pulled beneath the dirt, he thought of Ellie, of her bubble wand, of her final hug. He whispered, "Forgive me." And the forest closed over him, swallowed him whole. Days passed. The house stood quiet. The wind grew still. But sometimes, just sometimes, those walking the road near the Creed house heard a child laughing, or saw a pale figure in the woods, or found a tiny muddy footprint on their porch, because the forest eats its own and then sends them back. There is no resurrection without rot, and the woods never give back what they take. Question: would you listen if the earth began to whisper back your name? They didn't find the bodies. Not really. What was left of Lewis Creed was discovered weeks later by a group of hikers, miles beyond the marked trails, deep within the trees where compasses spun in circles and cell signals died. They found a man's shoe, a scrap of bloodied cloth, a child's toy car buried beneath moss, but no bones. The police called it an accident. Locals called it a curse. The Creed house was put up for sale. No one wanted it. Windows shattered mysteriously. Foundations cracked without warning. One real estate agent refused to ever go back after hearing a voice upstairs. "I want to play with you. I want to play with you." Only to find the house completely empty. Church the cat was seen sometimes, still alive, still watching, always sitting in the same place, just outside the pet cemetery. Tail curled neatly like a centennial on the edge of hell. His eyes closed in the dark, and he never blinked. Ellie Creed came back to Ludlow 10 years later. She was 20 now, studying psychology, trying to make sense of what had happened, of what was whispered behind her back in school, of what no adult ever explained. She stood at the edge of the forest. The wind was colder here. She stepped inside. The trees knew her. They leaned, shifted, whispered. Her heart beat faster, her breath fogged in the spring air. She followed the old trail her father had once walked. The stones remained, the path curved, just as she remembered. She passed the pet cemetery. She passed the deadfall. And then she found the grave. A mound of earth, small, untouched, fresh. There was no marker, but she knew. She knelt beside it and placed her hand on the soil. It whispered, not in words, but in memory. The echo of Gage's laughter, the scrape of a shovel, the sob of her mother, the quiet voice of her father saying, it's okay, baby, go back to sleep. The soil pulsed beneath her palm, warm, alive, and then a voice clear and low rose from beneath. She froze. Tears spilled down her cheeks. It was her father's voice. Ellie, I'm sorry. She whispered, where are you? The voice answered, here. She stayed for hours, listening. The wind played tricks with her hair. The shadows circled tighter. And then as the moon rose, she began to dig. The whispering grave calls only to those it loves. And love, in the end, is the deepest grave of all. Question. If the person you loved returned to you, changed, could you still let them in? Let me know in the comments. Chapter 9. The thing that came back. Ellie Creed dug until her fingers bled. She didn't know what she was doing. She didn't care. She missed them. Her father, her mother, her brother. The earth whispered her father's words in trembling echoes. Just a little bit deeper, baby. I'm so cold. By the time she reached the wooden box, the sun had vanished behind the trees. The moon hung low. The wind stilled. And all was silence. She pried open the lid with rusted fingers, and there was nothing. No body. Just a folded piece of cloth, a child's shoe, a wedding ring, and her father's watch, still ticking. Ellie stared into the empty grave. Then the whisper came again, but this time from behind her. She turned and saw her father, Lewis Creed, or what remained of him. His face was gaunt, sunken in places where flesh no longer sat right. His eyes were too wide, too still, but he smiled at her. That same smile she remembered when she brought home her first A on the math test. That same smile when she brushed her teeth for the first time. "Daddy," she whispered. He nodded. "You came back." And then he opened his arms. She didn't run. She stepped forward, embraced him. And in that moment, her heart broke again, because he felt wrong, too cold, too light, like hugging a marionette. But he kissed her forehead and whispered, "We can be family again." Behind him, others stepped into the clearing. Gage, still clutching the poker. Rachel, rotten, smiling. Church, eyes glowing, tail twitching, and behind them, the Wendigo, towering, shadow-wrapped, mouth always smiling. Lewis took Ellie's hand, and for a moment she almost let go of everything that she had become. But then she remembered the screams, the blood, the silence that swallowed the childhood, and she pulled away. No, this isn't you." Lewis tilted his head. "But I'm here, Ellie. You made me come back." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "Not like this." The Wendigo stepped closer. Its antlers scraped the trees. It reached for her, and Ellie ran. Branches tore her skin. Roots tried to trip her. Voices begged behind her. "Come back, Ellie. Stay with us. We're still your family." But she didn't stop. Not until she passed the deadfall. Not until she collapsed by the pet cemetery. She wept beneath the stars, alone but alive. The forest behind her howled, and then went still. The next day she bought matches, gasoline. She returned to the woods and she burned it all. The stones, the paths, the trees that whispered, the grave that still ticked. Flames rose like judgment, smoke coiled like memory, and the forest screamed. What returns from the grave is not love. It is longing, made monstrous. Final question. If you survived the nightmare, could you ever stop looking over your shoulder? The smoke curled into the sky like a final breath. Ellie Creed stood barefoot at the edge of the forest, watching the flames consume what had once been sacred ground, and what had since become a corridor into hell. The pet cemetery burned first, then the deadfall, then the trees, those ancient whispering trunks that bent in unnatural ways to shield secrets and harbor sins. She thought they would scream. They didn't. They howled, like something was inside them. Something buried in bark and bone, something that had waited far long to be fed, and yet it burned. The fire raged for hours, and then days. Helicopters circled, news anchors speculated, locals blamed lightning. Only Ellie knew the truth. Only Ellie knew what had almost came back, and what she had forced to stay behind. She never went home again. She moved south, changed her name, got a job at a woman's shelter in a city where no one asked questions and the trees didn't lean in when she walked by. But she never forgot the forest, all the things that rose from it. Sometimes in dreams she still heard it, her father's voice, calling to her, Ellie, it's safe now. You can come back. But she never did, because he wasn't alone. One autumn, she received a box in the mail after years had passed. No return address. Inside was a cat collar, torn, and a note, just 3 words. Not done yet. She moved again, but the dreams followed. The whispers grew louder, and now sometimes she hears them when she's awake, in the sound of dead leaves swirling down alleys, in the creak of pipes at night, in the dark hum between heartbeats. The forest was gone, but the roots still lived. You can bury the dead. You can burn a cemetery, but not the grief that built it, not the hunger that fed it, not the thing beneath it. Some doors once open never close again, and some shadows never stop looking for the ones who left. Thank you, my loyal night dwellers, for walking the path with me tonight, through soil, sorrow, and sin. But I must warn you now, that which was buried, that which was burned does not rest. It waits. It remembers. And when the wind is right, you'll hear it calling again. When grief grows teeth and the roots grow deep, the soil remembers what the living weep. Through fire and bone and ash-stained cry, the dead still watch with hollowed eye. And if you hear a voice from beneath the bed, Do not answer. It may be the dead. They've come for you, and one by one will lie beside what you've done. Buried hollow in your dreams are the stories that I bring in the darkest corridors of your nightmares. You belong to me. You do. Never forget that. Pleasant dreams.